satisfaction. Make a move, baby, you got nothing to lose. Give me that, give me that, give me that good reaction. Gonna make it right, little like an offer I can't refuse. I'm on the road, it's my time, taking control of my life. I want to run the red lights, I've got to run this show. You always take me so high, you always make the highlights. I love the way we vibe, you're like a centerfold. Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Sipping on the potion, all that good emotion, just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat, testify the motion, loving this devotion. Ooh, that sugar you got what I need. Sipping on the potion, all that good emotion, just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat, testify the motion, loving this devotion. Ooh, that sugar, just my.
If you're not watching us live on YouTube, you're missing a lot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a night dreamer. Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the strange news. Humanoid robots are starting to work side by side with actual people in warehouses for the first time, moving heavy boxes and containers. Why it matters? Labor-saving robots with dexterous fingers and a human appearance are expected to reshape the workforce. I'm Guy Ticker. The strange news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Hi, I'm Brian Seach. Listen to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary Anderson.
Coming to you live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's gonna get bumpy.
Well, I have a source high up in SETI that confirms to me that they, in fact, have received interplanetary signals.
It's Gary Anderson, the one and only inside info impresario.
Not normal array. It was kind of a pulsed array, and that it was kept secret and covered up. The SETI people are furious.
And now, get ready to blast off.
The guy who told me that was the founder of the SETI project. A man who had been one of Carl Sagan's best friends, the best man at his wedding.
Of course, because with Gary, there are billions and billions of possibilities. And now, here he is, the one, the only Gary Anderson.
Woo! And I am back. Wow. You know what, JC? Look at that in the back. My wife walked into the walk-in cooler, and I found her the next day. And, the cost of caskets and funerals is so expensive. So you know what I did? I put her to use.
You propped her up like Uncle.
Oh, I didn't have to prop her. She's standing. And then I just took her hands and kind of and then she's holding the on-air sign.
Yeah, like Uncle Bernie, that movie. You just take her wherever you go.
No, that's not true. I lied again.
Did you?
No, that's my Aunt Bertha, actually. I dug her up and brought her back for the show. Now she's useful.
Is she the one that played the...
She played in the band at the nudist camp. She played the saxophone.
Oh.
And all the guys, used to report she could really blow the saxophones.
I'll take your word for it on that one.
Well, or something. I don't know. So how have you been? You been staying out of trouble?
I've been, yeah. I'm always staying out of trouble, of course.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff going on. I've got great guests for Tuesday coming up. You've got some great guests coming up this week and next week. So a lot going on.
Well, we got Major Ed Danes, the remote viewer. He's coming back. He was on Art Bell's show quite a few times. He's going to be talking about, he's been out deep in the woods and he's remote viewed Bigfoot. And he's going to be doing that. So we're going to talk about his remote viewing of Bigfoot. That is going to be interesting. And, well, I spend 3 or 4 hours at least Ben's watching this creature feature. They show like Elvira did, the horrible movies that are so bad, they're actually good.
Yeah, and some of the movies are actually really good. You're talking about Vincent Van Dahl.
Yeah, he's going to be on next week.
Yes, next Friday, actually.
Next Friday, yeah. Coming from his castle, his great big, haunted castle, that is, out of California.
Yeah, it's one of them, I think it's Northern Cal, like San Francisco area, northern, like a mansion, haunted mansion.
Yeah, right off the ocean, right up there. A lot of people, have a hard time, guess even finding it to come on his show. Because if you type in Google, it doesn't come up with the address. And that's because he made his fortune off of Google. And when he pulled his money out of Google, it really hurt Google. So they really did him bad.
They did him dirty.
They done him dirty, yes. So we're going to be talking, about what creature features. A lot of people don't realize that started back in the 70s. It's carried on 50 TV stations at this time. But Bob, I can't remember the last name of the original host of it. But that goes back to the 70s. And they show a lot of movies. You even talked about The Claw, how bad that was.
Yeah. The Claw, that's you can tell that was some kind of prop by the airplane. That was a classic horrible one. But I did watch the Northers tape. That monster on the Northers tape gives me nightmares.
Well, they actually have some good movies.
Yeah.
And then they have some that's so bad. You're sitting there, right? And you're going, why am I wasting? I know it's time to go to bed when I start nodding out, watching one.
Yeah, that's when it's time. You better go to bed or you're going to have a nightmare, Gary.
So we're going to talk about, his mansion is haunted.
Yeah, it is. It's haunted. Plus, it's huge. Can you imagine? You probably get lost in the place, and wherever you go, there's probably a ghost waiting to pounce on you, Gary.
Probably. Maybe it's these 69 billion or whatever it is that the people have died. Maybe half of the ghosts are in his mansion.
Well, that'd be a full house then, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Talking about Full House, they're running reruns on that now again.
Oh,
Why is it famous movie stars, when they're 20, 30, 40, they look great looking. But as soon as they get like in their late 60s, they look like, oh my God, they're ugly as hell. Have you ever noticed that?
I have noticed that. That reminds me of a lot of people I see on, I don't know, I guess it's Facebook. Some of these women are 60, 70 years old, but their picture, they're like 30 years old. What's going on with that, Gary?
Well, some people are vain.
Oh.
Yeah. I tried to get a facelift, but the doctor said you don't have enough money to have somebody just rip off your face.
No. Hey, good thing you didn't ask for a raise. You tell you to get a big book and sit on it.
Yeah, too. I went into the doctor one time, because I had like this little growth on my knuckle. And he goes, well, 2 ways we can do it. One is we can go in and it's going to cost you a couple $1,000 and we can surgically remove whatever the growth is on your knuckle. The other is I want you to put your hand here and I'll be right back.
Oh, no.
And he came back with a real heavy book. This is a true story. And he goes, well, which do you prefer? And I said, well, hey, if it doesn't cost me anything. I didn't expect him to slam that book on my finger.
Well, of course, if you expected it, you would have moved.
Yeah, but guess what? Like the next day, it was, gone, going away.
Yeah, and you wasn't $2,000 poor.
No, but I tell you where I wanted to put my finger.
Yeah, I bet it was too sore to do that.
How too sore to do anything. So
Right.
you're going to be going to another event very shortly, aren't you?
I am. Matter of fact, I'm going to be going to the Mothman Festival, which is down in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which our guest tonight, Steve, he will be there. He's works at the museum. He's going to be talking. It's a big festival. It's been going on since 2002, I believe. So yes, it's going to be big. And anybody wants to chat with the Hitman, come on out.
Well, yeah, the Hitman's going to be walking around now. You're going to be getting a new Night Dreams Talk Radio Network t-shirt. Now, I want you to not look at the back of the t-shirt. I just want you to put it on. So when you're walking around in that event, well, don't tell anybody, but you know what out there, listeners? It has a,
Yeah.
right where you want to shoot the arrow.
Right. So after the third person pushes me or kicks me, I should maybe look at the back of the shirt then, maybe.
Yeah, this has, what do you call it? But anyway, or I could have it say kick me.
Yeah, I know. That's what I expect. Yeah.
So what are we going to be talking about here tonight?
Oh, boy. Tonight, our guest is Steve Ward. Ward. He lives at what many people call ground zero of the Mothman lore, Gary. It's in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. He also works at the Mothman Museum. Now, Steve has been researching Mothman and high strangeness for more than half a century.
Wow, Steve. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing really good.
Oh, yeah. How long has this museum been in existence?
Let's see, about 2006. Jeff Wamsley started the museum. It was actually across the street on Main Street from where it is now, and it was a smaller building. But he moved across the street, and he keeps adding rooms onto it. Rumor has it he's got another full room of stuff that he can put out there, but we just don't have room for it yet.
What type of stuff does the museum have?
Well, Jeff was about 6 years old when all this happened, when the Mothman sightings took place, culminating with the Silver Bridge collapse. And he found out some years later that his father had been collecting articles about everything that had been going on. So he gained an interest in all things Mothman, call it folklore, call it history. And so he started collecting this, and in 2006 he established the museum. It has many articles from everything from the Stars and Stripes military newspaper to the locals that covered all this at the time, including Mary Hyer's column. Mary Hyer was the stringer for the Athens Messenger. She had a column called Where the Waters Mingle. And she became good friends and a colleague with John Keel, who, of course, wrote the Mothman Prophecies. And she was the one that covered the Mothman sightings, Men in Black, UFO sightings. There's also displays there. There's a great display dedicated to John Keel. There's a glass cabinet with his characteristic white sports jacket in there. They have displays of the Men in Black, mannequins dressed up like the Men in Black. There's a nice, there's actually 5 different documentaries going on all at the same time. And he has one special viewing room where he shows one of the documentaries. And when you walk from the main room through the little opening into the viewing room, you'll see there's a tribute to a woman named Carolyn Harris. Carolyn Harris was the co-founder of the Mothman Festival. She had a diner just down the street, Harris's Steakhouse, also known as the Mothman Diner. So there's a nice tribute to her. She was an amazing lady. She lost her little boy when he was crossing the bridge with her ex-husband that night on December 15th, 1967. And nevertheless, even though it was a horrible tragedy for her, over the years she knew that it's the establishment of the museum, the establishment of the Mothman Festival would help revitalize the town. So she was all about, even though I don't believe that the Mothman had any direct connection with the Silver Bridge collapse. It happened in time and space. It's always associated with that. Nonetheless, she turned a negative into a positive, and she was a force for good. That lady. So there's just, and also there's a section in the museum where the museum has a little bit of a fee, but it's well worth it. But before you go in there, there's a great section for there's a series of books, there's T-shirts and so forth, very very high quality merchandise. Jeff has done a phenomenal job of this. This is not cheap stuff made in China with Mothman stamped on it. This is well created and well thought out. It's and people love the museum. We get people from all over the world that make a pilgrimage to Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Do you have a book where people sign in to from all over the world?
I don't think there is a book there. If there is, I've missed it. But when I talk to people, I'm there usually on Saturdays, and I'm there to answer questions and so forth. Oftentimes, the people that work there are just very busy, and I've been following this since November of 1966, when that first major sighting took place, when it chased the two couples down Route 62 from the TNT area, which we can talk about in a little bit. But I was in junior high in Michigan at the time, and that particular sighting hit the wire services all over the world, even hitting the Stars and Stripes newspaper. And this is before Mothman had a proper name. The locals just called it the bird. And
A big one.
But I had a family in from Nicaragua the other day. One Saturday we had a gentleman in from Mexico, a family in from Puerto Rico, two gentlemen in from England. A few weeks back we had a couple gentlemen in from Ireland, and we were talking about the Banshee, another harbinger possibly. It's just phenomenal, the people we get from all over the world, and many times it's not just happenstance that they're there. This was a planned destination. This was a pilgrimage they've been wanting to do for a very long time. And of course, we get people from all over the U.S. as well.
Very interesting. Now, can you tell us about the two grave diggers that saw the Mothman? They were the first ones that actually saw him, or what?
Yes, at Clendenning, which I think is about maybe an hour and a half from Point Pleasant. They were digging a grave at near Clendenning at the cemetery, and it was a very brief sighting. But imagine you're digging a grave, and you look up and you see this. Now I don't know if it was the Mothman or not, but it was some kind of a bird-like creature or man-like creature with wings that flew overhead. I think if that happened to me when I was digging the grave, I might look at that as a sign and look for the county line as quickly as possible.
I would get out of grave digging really quick after that one, I'll tell you that. Back a couple years ago, I had a truck driver who claimed up in Eugene, Oregon at the truck stop. He went there to eat, fill up with diesel. He had a new rig, so he parked it off to the side, away from the other, rigs. And when he got into his rig, he went to start it. And he's looking out his windshield, and he claims he saw a Mothman or something like, you remember Jeepers Creepers movie?
Yes.
Yeah, he described it as something as that, levitating off the ground a couple feet, eyes, red eyes staring at him. And he said he was so terrified. And the thing just stared at him for a couple minutes, and then it just kind of like opened its wings and did its thing and took off. Could you imagine how scary that would be out, in the parking lot late at night?
I've actually spoken to some of the original witnesses, and they felt a great deal of fear.
Oh, I would. Have you ever ran across the Mothman or anything that resembled it or anything?
I'm afraid I'm the guy that has to talk to people that have had experiences. I've had virtually nothing happen to me, and I certainly have never encountered the Mothman or any kind of a winged cryptid. I mean, there's a whole array of these things that sometimes people want to dub everything Mothman. I'm not sure that quite fits. I mean, we had the Houston Batman back in the 50s. It was almost like some guy in a suit. We had the Wisconsin man bat in, oh gosh, what is it, over a decade ago? Linda Godfrey, who's no longer with us, who was covering the Beast of Bray Road material, she reported on that. A father and son saw this ugly-looking, large bat-like creature that hit their windshield and then flew off, and then they got very sick afterwards. There are many, many, along with all the other cryptids people experience, there are many, many varieties of winged creatures. And in fact, at the end of the month, I'll be emceeing the Van Meter Visitor Festival. And in Van Meter, Iowa in 1903, there was a series of encounters during a week at the end of September where people were seeing something like a pterodactyl in this little town. There were some very high-profile, credible people that saw it, but this thing had some strange properties. That while it looked kind of like a big bird, big pterodactyl, it had a horn on its beak that seemed to have a light attached to it. It actually gave off a glow, and when it was on top of one of the buildings early on, somebody thought it was actually a burglar up there with a flashlight. Now, and it also, at one point, it was in close proximity with somebody, and it exuded some kind of a vapor. You can insert your own joke there if you would like. But what happened was this guy had missing time. And so you have this entity that gives off a light like some of the entities do in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And also, like in so many other cases of UFOnauts and even the elementals of old, people would have missing time. Well, this creature somehow seemed to produce missing time. Anyway, it's another winged creature, an unknown, that showed up for a while, scared the heck out of people, and then sort of evaporated.
That is scary too. Has there been any reports? I know that the original Mount Pleasant about a dog. The guy went into the barn and they had a dog. It disappeared, and they found the dog on the side of the road dead. I mean, has there been any animals, people, or anything missing during any of these reports?
According to, if you read some of John Keel's writings, there were some animal mutilations at the time. I mean, there were a lot of bizarre things going on, and strange lights going overhead all the time. It wasn't just people seeing the Mothman. So there were animal mutilations, and supposedly there were like dogs missing and that kind of a thing. But I don't have all the documentation for it. There was a strange case where just across the river in Gallipolis, Ohio, along a road called George's Creek Road, where there was a lot of activity. There was a kind of a saucer nest. You could see there was a landing where it pressed down. Well, part of it pressed down on a dog and killed the dog. So, and that's kind of gruesome, but it's just another one of these things that show up in these I call them high strangeness areas.
It sounds like it, like the Men in Black, again, appearing at the start of this, and the reports that they were driving up in an old looking new car, dressed, like the beatniks used to dress, or the people used to dress like in the late 50s, mid 50s, with the hat, the dark suit,
Sure.
And again, I'm just wondering if this Mothman could be tied into UFOs or anything related.
Well, it was seen a couple times in conjunction with a strange light in the sky. The Men in Black. Now, John Keel noticed that there were a lot of men there that were probably government agents. They had the close cropped hair, the skinny tie, and so forth. But there were other situations where, for example, Mary Hyre was plagued with some real oddballs that would come in, asking questions about Keel and about UFOs and not being dressed for the weather. By the way, John Keel used the term Men in Black as kind of a generic term. It could also refer to someone dressed as an Air Force officer there to maybe tell you not to report your UFO sighting or confiscate photographs. There was even some years ago there was a bulletin that came out from the Air Force that there were actually they acknowledged that there were people out there dressed like Air Force officers who were not Air Force officers, and they couldn't understand, who was doing this or why. So the Men in Black situation, some are, I'm sure, are just very mundane government agents, and look, there are some real oddballs that are attracted to this realm that we're all interested in it. They're not all normal like we are, right? So every once in a while, you might get somebody that's a little bit off. But there are some of these. Well, let me give you an example. I talked to a woman named Linda Sigmund. Now, she's going to be speaking at the Mothman Festival. She's been on a few shows. She was on my show, The High Strangeness Factor, not too long ago. She's a very, very credible lady. When she was 16 years old, she and her boyfriend were about 12 miles north of Point Pleasant. This was April of 1967. So the Mothman sightings and the UFOs were going along pretty well, and they saw some kind of a large orb light floating around. This is night, and then it's kind of a long experience. But at one point, she saw they were driving away because these lights were freaking them out. She saw the Mothman. I mean, she saw this winged creature that fit the description. Her boyfriend didn't see it. He was driving. She was looking out the side window. She also saw this light, another light, right next to it. She didn't know if it came out of it or was flying with it or connected to it somehow. But then, a few months later, this would be about early December, and this is the very same December that the Silver Bridge collapsed. She was in downtown Point Pleasant. And she saw this strange man standing, leaning up against the building. Classic, dark suit, dark hat, sunglasses at night, and he seemed to have a bit of an olive complexion. And she thought, "Wow, this guy is pretty strange." And then she looked down the street, and she saw another guy that looked just like him. Those not saying anything, very quiet. And just this other guy was leaning up against a light pole. So she just walked by and thought, boy, they looked very odd, and she didn't know what to make of it. Several years later, when she read John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies, she thought, my God, these were classic Men in Black. So it's very hard to know. I mean, there are some really bizarre reports where these gentlemen would fall under the category of Men in Black. But it's really hard to try and figure out what's behind it.
Yeah, it is rather, strange, that they're associated. Now, that whole area, too, was, a lot of UFO sightings, too, at that time.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Absolutely. And, the first sort of major sighting, the classic one we've all heard about, the Scarberries and the Mallets were out driving around the TNT area. Now, the TNT area was nicknamed that because it was a munitions area during World War II. If you look at the old black and white photographs, you'll see it was a huge complex where they made explosives for the war effort. And they stored them in these 100 concrete bunkers or igloos. And by the 60s, most of that was gone. The old North Power Plant was still standing there. It was kind of a ruin. But that's where the Scarberries and the Mallets were driving by on this old dirt road when they saw this thing. And now Jeff Wamsley, he was actually Linda Scarberry's paper boy. I mean, can you imagine how cool is it to grow up in a place where you've got a monster in your backyard, And so he knew these people. He knew a lot of the witnesses. So one day, now Linda's no longer with us, but I got a chance to speak to her a couple times.
Now,
yes,
we need to take a break. We'll be back with Steve and we'll find out more. So everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back. So stay out of trouble.
To your heart, I have been lost for all of this time. will not let you down. Take me to your heart. I need to calm down. Take me to your heart. I need to tell you how much I have missed you so. I feel cold. I need to get warm, baby. Feeling cold in my soul. Where are you now? In the realms of your heart. Just take me to your heart. It's the only place I know. With peace and love I long for.
Captain Paul Watson was a co-founder of the Greenpeace Foundation in 1972 and the founder of Sea Shepherd in 1977. In 2022, he was forced out of Sea Shepherd in a hostile takeover. So, he established the Captain Paul Watson Foundation to carry on the work they've been doing for half a century with the specific strategy of aggressive non-violence, which means aggressive intervention without killing or injuring anyone. They took the name he created and the logos he designed, but they couldn't take away his life's mission. The foundation will carry on. This summer, with their new ship, the John Paul DeJoria, they intend to intervene against the Icelandic slaughter of endangered fin whales. And in 2024, they plan to be in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary to stop the return of Japanese whalers who will be defying the International Court of Justice. They have one ship, but they need two more. Please visit paulwatsonfoundation.org to become a monthly donor. By becoming a monthly donor, you can help grow their Navy and help save our oceans. We don't survive on this planet with dead oceans. If the oceans die, we die. Please visit now www.paulwatsonfoundation.org. Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the Strange News. The Pentagon's new UFO website lets you explore declassified sightings info. Eventually, people will be able to submit their own reports of, quote, unidentified anomalous phenomena, close quote. I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You are listening to the legendary Gary Anderson, heard coast to coast and worldwide on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Now available on many radio stations and on your favorite app.
Oh, finally I get him on dialogue.
No.
Oh, shit!
And now, with no more foul language, sorry, I couldn't resist. Here he is, the one, the only Gary Anderson.
And I am back. Well, you know, JC, I'm trying to catch that chicken that's running around the studio. I figured I could have him for dinner tomorrow.
That's probably why he's not letting you catch him.
Have you noticed that? Maybe it's a rooster. I don't know. This ever so often it just happens to run right across the, in the studio.
I do notice that. Actually, if it's a rooster, you'll know. When you turn your back, it'll spur you up the backside.
Yeah. How do you like that little, can you see that little grave marker in the studio?
What I see is the backdrop of a city right now is what I'm seeing.
Well,
on yellow.
You forgot. You're looking at me on closed circuit.
I am. Also, I'm looking on the other one, and I do see what you got going on back there. You got somebody looks like they need to eat something.
Well, I got 2 skeleton heads. I got a alien holding the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got, I had my son go down to the local cemetery and steal that grave marker.
No, that won't cause any problems with you later on of a haunting. I hope you got your blanket ready.
I now know where she came from. I just figured it out. If he stole the grave marker, he probably stole her.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, he dug her up at the same time.
It's a Quinella. It's a twofer.
Yeah, zombie, you know that.
Yes, package deal. Yes. Oh my goodness, you nothing could go wrong with that.
I know. Well, Steve, we are back. I think we are.
Good. Nice to be back.
Well, it's nice to be here. Otherwise, I'd be some other place. And if I was some other place, then I wouldn't know where I was at. So anyway, all these things are going on like Men in Black. And again, it makes me sometimes I wonder if they're ETs or aliens or whatever they are, because, so many reports of this, that they're always dressed in old style suits. They drive up in new looking old cars. And that makes me wonder, maybe they're watching our old TV shows, and that's why they figured that's what we're wearing right now. And that's the type of cars we're driving. And the cars are like 10, 15 years old, but they're new.
Yeah, the Men in Black lore is very strange. Sometimes it's fairly straightforward, where there seems to be some kind of harassment, and they want to not talk about your sighting. Jenny Randalls, a great British researcher, wrote a book called "The Truth Behind the Men in Black," and she reported on this one case. I don't remember the young lady's name, but she had seen. Of course, this was in England. She had seen a UFO, and it's reported it, I believe. But one night, 2 men came to the door. They looked like government men. I forget the type of car they were driving, but it wasn't a black Cadillac. And the parents couldn't understand why they just let them in without any question. And so they came in, and one of them started just belting questions to this young lady, one after another. And she was very distressed. And the questions weren't particularly illuminating or penetrating or anything like that. Later on, Jenny Randalls got the idea, well, why don't we put this young lady under regressive hypnosis, that maybe this isn't as straightforward as we think, and she was under a great deal of distress. Let's find out more if we can. Well, what they found out was that while this man was firing questions at her, the other man seemed to be asking questions telepathically, intermittently, with the other guy. Neither set of questions were particularly revealing or illuminating. It was just a totally bizarre, inexplicable event. But that's the way a lot of these things go. Some are obviously more. There probably is somebody coming from some faction of the government, bothering people or harassing people. Back to what I was talking about before, when the Scarberries and the Mallets were driving around the TNT area that night, November 15th, 1966, they were driving along the road by the Old North Power Plant. And Linda, this is Jeff Wamsley, had her go out one time, and he said, "Okay, Linda, take me step by step through everything that happened." And this is the first thing that happened. So they're driving along. She said, "Well, what's that man doing standing in the middle of the road?" Well, that man all of a sudden spread his wings, about a 10-foot wingspan. Then he noticed it had red glowing eyes. It was kind of shuffling, not walking, off toward the Old North Power Plant. Well, they decided to get the heck out of there. And they drove down Potter's Creek Road, hit Route 62, and when they made a left to go south into town, they saw this thing, or its kissing cousin, standing next to a billboard sign. Then they took off. They hit speeds at almost 100 miles an hour. And eventually they stopped at the police station. The police station, Chief Halstead said they all looked frightened. And he separated them, and they got their stories. Now, their handwritten stories you can see posted up in the Mothman Museum. as you walk in the museum section. So that's how it, the Clendenning report came out later, but this was kind of the beginning of a wave of sightings. John Keel, actually, John Keel was down in that area because he was looking into an old story about Thomas the cat. Thomas the cat is supposed to have had wings. And as his owner, this boy would keep him in a shoebox, and for 10 cents would allow people to see the cat. Well, the cat's wings, I think, eventually fell off, but this happened a few years before. He thought it'd be a great human interest story if you could follow up on it. He talked to his buddy Gray Barker, another great researcher of yesteryear, and he said, there's some really strange stuff going on in Point Pleasant. So over the next year, he got John Keel, who was a journalist out of New York, came down 5 times and became, as he says in the book, The Mothman Prophecies, my life became intertwined with the people of the Ohio Valley. So that's how that all started. That's how John Keel started to meet all these people. He chronicled a little over 100 reports of this creature over that year. And most of them, at least physically, were similar. 6-7 foot tall, man-like, 10-foot wingspan, red glowing eyes. Not everybody saw the Mothman per se. Some just saw a large bird. But the thing that's so weird about the Mothman was the behavior of it. It didn't always flap its wings when it took off. Sometimes it would put its wings behind it and take off straight like a helicopter. It did seem to leave footprints sometimes. There were some people that were in close proximity to it that told Keel that it sounded like it was some kind of a machine or giving off some kind of a humming noise. Many people that saw it would go home afterwards and would have an outbreak of poltergeist phenomena, including Linda Scarberry. That happened to her when she went home. There's just so many bizarre. Some people actually saw it manifest like an apparition in their bedroom. There was one man, a town official. He was a banker. He went out on his front porch and he saw this thing out there. It's just standing there. He went into a trance for about 20 minutes, and when he came out of it, it's still there, and then it took off. He didn't realize till later how much time had passed. So it's very difficult to try and say, what is this thing? Keel used terms like ultra-terrestrial, which was a term he borrowed from his friend and colleague, Ivan Sanderson. And it was just Keel thought these things, whatever they were a natural condition of the planet. He had kind of by the end of the 60s, he had kind of rejected the ET hypothesis, which he kind of backtracked a little bit on later. But it's just that, and at first Keel said he thought this was just a big bird. And he joked how he loaded up his 14-foot monster traps and headed off for Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So, and another thing, it's interesting, when he would use the term ultra-terrestrial, which implies extra-dimensional, it implies some kind of a energy or intelligence that manifests here from time to time. He would use that term interchangeably sometimes with elemental. Well, elemental may not be a bad label for whatever the Mothman was. Now, I don't know if I can tell you what an elemental was, but Keel also talked about these things being, and I love this word, transmogrifications of energy, that they're like temporal manifestations, that whatever the source is, the intelligence or whatever, would manifest these things, and sometimes it would be kind of reflective of us. We might co-create some of these things with this energy. It's very difficult to summarize John Keel's ideas in a couple paragraphs, but he noticed the way that UFOs kind of changed throughout the ages. We had the mysterious lights. Sometimes they called them fairy lights. Some even thought they were witches riding on their brooms carrying a lantern. But then, you get the majestic airships of 1897. You get the ghost planes of the 30s in Sweden. And you always get these technologies that are a little bit ahead of us, but they keep changing. So whatever it was, Keel admitted he never really solved the mystery of the Mothman, but whatever it is very elusive and seems to be something beyond mere flesh and blood.
Well, too, they've been sighted all over the United States. The late Joe Taylor, and JC, correct me if I'm wrong on this, he was on our show quite a few times before he passed. He had a fossil museum in Texas. He had a friend that worked late in the morning, and one day she was going to work, and she's driving down this lonely road, and she thought there was a person on the road. So she stopped, she got out, and asked him if it was all, if he was all right. And then she noticed the thing was tall, it had wings, and then it flew off. And then about 6 months later, she was going to work again on that same road. She hit one. And I guess, JC, didn't it damage the car, put a dent in it or something?
It did. It put a dent in the top part of the grill, and well, not the grill, but the hood. Yeah, it did put a dent in it. She didn't, she was so scared and startled from it, she didn't even think about DNA or anything. But she should have played a lottery, maybe a bad lottery. What a thing to do twice.
Yeah, and that's what scares me, because they're out, like the trucker who claimed in Eugene, and the one in Texas, and stuff like that. Has anybody, Stephen, got any like castings like they do for Bigfoot of the feet or anything? Has anybody managed to get anything?
Not that I know of. John Keel said that he saw some strange footprints around the Old North Power Plant, kind of, I don't know, skinny little things. As far as I know, they weren't actually, nobody took a sample of them. But a lot of times these things don't seem to leave footprints. One thing he did find there, which is bizarre and just adds to the mystery, he found these large dog-like footprints near the Old North Power Plant. He also saw them near, there was a really bizarre UFO sighting. Tad Jones, not too far from Charleston, saw this sort of a retro UFO with a little propeller on the bottom and caster wheels on the bottom flying around in 67. But he found them there too. And then he consulted with Ivan Sanderson, and Ivan Sanderson said, yeah, for some reason, we keep finding these large dog-like footprints in these paranormal hotspots. There was a retired Wayne State University professor that gave a talk at Michigan MUFON one time, and he was talking about his research into Bigfoot and UFOs in Michigan. And he made that same statement. He says, we keep finding these kinds of footprints in these areas. And I actually asked Linda Godfrey several years ago about it. And she said, yes, it's true. She said, one thing you have to be a little careful of is these days people are faking footprints. So you have to be careful. But so you have 4 researchers separated by half a century, all telling us that these large dog-like footprints keep showing up in these areas. But it's not until the 90s that it becomes popularized with Linda Godfrey's research in the Dogman. So nobody's report, there weren't any Dogman-like reports that I know of in Point Pleasant at that time. But what the heck, it's just another, you think you're just getting there, and then there's another mystery that evolves. It's like, I call it the Red Queen effect. The Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. She told Alice that, if you're going to get anywhere, you got to run faster and faster. And Alice is running as fast as she can, and the trees are standing still. So that's what I feel like we get caught up in sometimes, is when we're trying to solve these mysteries, that they're almost impenetrable.
How many people come in the museum and claim that they have sightings of Mothman?
Let's see. I haven't really talked to too many that have seen some kind of a winged creature. A lot of people have experiences, UFOs and so forth. And there are some people, especially if you look at the Small Town Monsters documentaries. They did one called The Mothman of Point Pleasant and The Mothman Legacy. There are a few people on there that have seen something like the Mothman in more recent years. It seems like his heyday was the mid-'60s, but people still see what might be him. I think we have to be a little careful, though. Sometimes people like to put that label on just about everything. And if John Keel was onto something, these things may actually emanate from the same source, but manifest a little bit differently sometimes. He followed this line of thought from the Mothman prophecies into the Eighth Tower, and wondered if some of these things just, they do what they do. They leave footprints. They even kill animals and then sort of evaporate. That being said, there does seem to be, if you're familiar with Stan Gordon's work,
Oh, yeah.
Silent Invasion and the bizarre Bigfoot reports seen in conjunction with UFOs. But there also seems like there might be some kind of duality. Some of these cryptids do seem to be flesh and blood. Do seem to be very solid. And even John Keel, he in Strange Creatures from Time and Space, he said he categorized type A and type B. Type A are real animals like perhaps the Yeti, maybe some of the water monsters, but type B are these more elusive things that sort of come out of the phantom menagerie for whatever reason and then sort of fade away. That's when he would talk about the idea of window areas where things sort of seem to pop in and pop out. Scare the heck out of people, leave your footprints, and then you're gone.
Like portals opening and closing. Yeah, again, right. Too, I was talking back about a year ago with an investigator about Mothman. He said that, when he did a lot of investigation, God, JC, he wrote a book about Lake Michigan Mothman. I can't think of his name. He's been on the show quite a few times. He claimed, too, that a lot of people are confusing birds like cranes and stuff with Mothman, because cranes can grow, pretty good size.
Oh, sure. And I have no doubt that in the hysteria when the Mothman news first hit, there were hundreds of people lined up to drive into the TNT area, and a lot of these guys had their shotguns and bow and arrows because they were going to bag themselves a Mothman. And I have no doubt that some of them looking into the shadows maybe thought they saw him. At that same time, John Keel, the reporter Mary Heyer, and sometimes other people would go several miles south of there to Gallipolis Ferry and back in the old hollers and to find just a kind of a quiet place. And they would stay there, park the car, and while they never saw the Mothman, they saw dozens and dozens of strange lights and UFOs pass overhead. What an amazing place to be at that time. I wish I, could have been there to see some of this.
I don't know if I really would want to see it. Again, because maybe these creatures, Mothman, could be something that shapeshift.
I think that's very possible. I mean, if you talk about the elemental idea, it's interesting. John Keel thought that these things were reflective to some degree. Well, if you go back to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, whoever we all know as the author of Sherlock Holmes, he was a paranormal investigator of his time. He was very interested in the elementals, the fairies. He wrote a book called The World of the Fairies, and in there he actually says something where he sounds like John Keel. He says, the appearance of the fairies are largely dependent on the person viewing them, suggesting they don't have an actual definitive shape. There's some kind of an interchange, some kind of a collective or something that we add to these things to help them manifest, or that we see them in a certain way.
Interesting too. Just like Bigfoot, we have no body parts ever found. The same way as Mothman, there's no bones, no carcasses, no nothing of these creatures.
And Ron Moorhead, the great researcher who captured the Sierra Sounds and the Sierra Nevadas back in the 70s, he and who was it, Barry, the guy that wrote the book with him. Barry's no longer with us, but they were experiencing a lot of odd things, paranormal things, but for a long time they kept it close to the vest because it's hard enough to get people to believe that the Bigfoot exists. Then when you add in the fact that batteries are draining in the camera and the flashlights, and they're seeing strange lights going through the woods, which is what they experienced, they kept that quiet for a while. but in more recent now, and then he wrote the book Quantum Bigfoot, which gets into the very high strangeness aspects of Bigfoot. So there's something that is not straightforward there. Something that is, and we shouldn't ignore the high strangeness aspects of these things. There's something very real there, but something we don't understand.
Well, like, can you imagine you're in your camp, right? And you're sleeping, and you got recording going. All of a sudden, you're miles and miles away from any logging roads. They had a, backpack in, with horses and mules. And Ron claimed, one night they heard a car or door or a trunk open and close. Weird type of sounds.
Well, that's something that shows up in these areas, like a car door slam, metal on metal. It makes no sense at all. It even happened to Betty and Barney Hill's niece and nephew. They were camping on some of their property, and they heard that noise in the middle of nowhere. There was something else, and then the next day they found a 3-toed Bigfoot print, similar to the ones that Stan Gordon found in 73 and 74. So there's there are so many mysteries here that and John Keel was the guy that really set us on a new path from our old thinking. Rosemary Ellen Guiley said that he was the first one to see the interconnectedness of all paranormal phenomena. And Nick Redfern said that he suspected that in whatever afterlife domain John Keel is now, he's still way ahead of his time. I'm talking about this because on Sunday at the Mothman Festival, I will be giving a sort of a refresher course on Mothman, but you can't talk about Mothman without talking about John Keel.
You're right. Can you tell everybody where our time is almost gone? Can you tell the listeners where this is at, where this great event is?
Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the 16th and 17th of September. It falls always the third weekend in September. There's speakers there. There's vendors. There's the museum. There's the majestic Mothman statue. It's just a really, really great time.
Now, go ahead.
One other thing. Be sure and get there early Saturday morning. Buy your ticket. The only thing that costs any money is for the TNT hayride. We take people into the dreaded TNT area Saturday night, so to test your mettle, and it's just a blast.
It sounds like it. Now, if they want to go to the museum, how do they find it?
Just Google it to get the address, but it's right there on Main Street, Main and 3rd, right next to it is the Mothman statue. Jeff Walmsley has two other stores on either side of it. One is like an old vinyl shop, very cool, and the other is the Point Pleasant Trading Company. And there's all kinds of history. I mean, you go 2 blocks up the street, you'll see the bridge memorial where the Silver Bridge used to stand. You'll see, if you go a little further to Windy Way Park, that's the first battle of the Revolutionary War, and the Shawnee Chief Cornstalk is buried there. It's just an amazing place.
Well, everybody, if you go to it, say hi to Steve Ward.
I will be running around like a madman during the festival, but yeah, it'd be great to meet you.
Yeah, and if you see our hitman, JC, there, he's going to have a target on the back of his T-shirt. And I'll give $5 for the first person. No, I'm not going to say it. Well, hey, Steve, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And by the way, before I let you go, how can they find your podcast?
It's the High Strangeness Factor on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. You can find it on all kinds of platforms. And I'm also on Mac Maloney's Military X-Files as a correspondent on the same network and many other platforms.
Well, great. Well, my friend, have a great weekend that's coming up.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for having me on your show.
Okay.
It really was a good time.
You take care. Well, JC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to have a lot of fun there?
I am. I'm going to have a lot of fun. Listen, that place is going to be probably the biggest crowd of all of my little tour of the summer tour. As you know, been to many places, talking to potential guests, future guests, and just people, letting people know that, hey, this is a lot of stuff going on with our show and other people out there. It's a good time. Listen, when they say they got everything there, they mean everything. And there's going to be thousands of people there, Gary.
Yeah, it sounds like it. We'll be right back for the wrap up of the show. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website. It's been totally updated at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. If you haven't subscribed and hit the bell to our YouTube channel, shame on you, because the hitman will come and, see you. Or he'll send Guito to come and see you. We'll be right back right after this for the show wrap up. Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the Strange News. UFologist Dr. Stephen Greer has made a startling claim about the existence of a clandestine fraud operation operating without U.S. government oversight. According to Greer, this organization has developed advanced technology that is allegedly being used to stage a, quote, fake alien attack on Earth. I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You are listening to the legendary Gary Anderson, heard coast to coast and worldwide on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Now available on many radio stations and on your favorite app. And now, because we just can't stand to wait any longer, what really hurts, it's like this painful throbbing. Sorry, here he is, the one, the only, Gary Anderson. Woo! We are back. And you know what? If you haven't become a night dreamer, we have revised everything. All you have to do is go to our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. There's a little thing called Fast Blast. And all you have to do is click on that. Tell us your name, your city, and what country you're in, and we will register you as a night dreamer. Now, we got a lot of stuff we're going to be giving away. No, I'm not going to give out Helen and some of these other creatures we have here, but we got a lot of stuff. We have things like this we're going to be giving out. Roswell. I got a whole bunch of those. And a whole bunch of stuff that we'll be giving out randomly. We're going to go down the list of people that subscribe to our being a night dreamer. And we'll pick them and we'll ship you out one of these cool water bottles. Guaranteed not to leak if you don't put water in it. What do you think about that one, JC?
That's a pretty good deal. And you might have to send some instructions with that.
Oh, yeah. In Pig Latin, by the way.
Right.
A little bit of Anakanakana right in there, right in there.
Yeah, that's the best way. Looking forward to, maybe I might get me one of them cups. You better send me instructions, though. But yeah.
Well, can you read?
Yeah.
Once
in a while.
Yeah. People won't come in my studio anymore. They said it's creepy.
Well, geez, look behind you.
That I'll be honest with you. It does look like my wife, but don't let me, don't repeat it. I don't want to get busted.
she's listening to it right now because every time
Probably, yeah, Brucey does listen, but it does look like her. Or it looks off that lady off of Creature, Features.
Yes, Vangela, or yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's going to be a great show.
It's going to be a good show. Vincent's a really, really great guy. I'm telling you what, he's got some stuff to talk about too. Let me tell you.
Yeah, he was a famous rock band, and back in the 70s and 80s and out of the UK.
The Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, or something like that. Well, we got like Major Ed Dames coming on. Again, he's going to be talking about his newest remote viewing of Bigfoot. Can you believe that?
Yeah, yes. Let me tell you something. When Major Ed Dames goes off grid, he goes off grid. So yes, he's got some. I think that's a whole fascinating aspect, a different approach to Bigfoot. Think about it. It really is.
Now, how many people have remote viewed or tried remote viewing him?
Right. I mean, they've remote viewed Mars, so why not Bigfoot?
Yeah. How about Littlefoot?
Oh, listen. Hey, there's been some sightings of that Littlefoot, believe it or not. Different places. People have been seeing these little people. So, and not just where Mary Joyce is seeing them, different areas of the country.
Yeah. What do you think's going on with all these UFO reports? It sure hasn't let up.
No. Well, you know what? There's more people now. Everybody's got a camera on them. So they're out there. You're going to see them, but I don't think I would say if I had to, my own opinion, I think only maybe 10% of them are really off-world UFOs. I think a lot of them is ours with that technology that we have that just won't, release it.
Okay, but if we have that type of technology, then why are we worried about Putin with his new, nuclear 5-story, missile that can take out the UK? If we have these craft, we could control the whole world.
Well, the problem is the ones that have these craft, they're not connected to the military or government that we know of. I think it's basically through these companies. Really.
No, you're not going to say it's the Nazis, a secret society that happened in 1945 by the Hitler Youth leader that created a whole network of Nazi spies.
Well, yeah, I remember what Eisenhower said, industrial complex. I think there's maybe something to it. Who knows?
Yeah, we're going to have the attorney back too very shortly too, aren't we?
Yes, next Wednesday. Andrew Bashago will be back on next Thursday, the 14th, he will be back on.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show too.
It is, but you know what? Next Wednesday, the 13th, we have Dan Willis coming on. Now, he's been on many documentaries. He was actually at the first congressional hearings back in 2001, I believe, with Dr. Stephen Greer. But at the same time, you know what happened? There's always something distracts. That's when 9/11 happened, remember?
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of like,
Abbey Loeb claims that from the bottom of the ocean, he has a piece of a UFO.
Yeah, he's been searching. Listen, he's been searching the oceans for these. That's his approach, is to try to find off-world technology or material from these craft.
You think he actually found something that's off-world?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, it shouldn't be hard to find out because, like we've talked before, these things on a molecular level are created in a way we can't create them here on Earth.
Yeah, but the piece he was holding up was not very big. So
I haven't seen that piece.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder. I just really like to know what's going on. I think we're getting the jive. You remember the Bee Gees jive talking?
Yeah.
I think we're getting a lot of jive talking. It's gotten so confusing.
Oh, it is. Believe me, it is confusing. And didn't Art Bell had a piece of material too, didn't he? How big was that?
That was about yay big.
Oh, that was big.
Yeah. It was, but it was not thick. You could crumple it up. But Linda Morton Howe ended up with a piece of it, but I don't know whatever happened.
Right.
Yeah, strange things out there. It just makes me wonder, if there is a World War III, are they going to stop the nuclear, Holocaust? I don't know. A lot of people think it's going to happen. I don't want to be in one of those lines and saying, well, I don't have to worry about it. They'll stop it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put my chips on that one either. But another scary thought, though, if you think about if these societies or whoever these people have that has this technology, they're not really connected to anybody. Who's to say one day they might not get a hair or cross and say, you know what, maybe we will take over the world. I mean, that's scary too.
Yeah.
They have no oversight.
Well, we've talked to people that, this has been going on for about 100 years, a lot of reports, right? But, what is time? I mean, if you come from another galaxy, another solar system, what is a minute if it exists in another galaxy, solar system, another realm of whatever? I mean, our time goes by so fast. I was looking at my old driver's license, one of my old ones, and I was in my 40s. And then I looked at my current one. I go, God, look how much I aged in a short period of time. Time goes by so freaking fast. But maybe that from another galaxy, solar system, whatever, the time could be totally different.
It is. I think that time is something that we humans box in. We have to put everything in a box or label it. I think time, past, present, future is all happening all at the same time, really.
The Earth is going to go pretty soon to a 25-hour day.
Oh, that ought to be interesting.
No, it's because of the slowing down of the planet. I was reading an article the other day that we're just a few years away from having a 24-hour day. It'll be a 25-hour day. Can you imagine? 25 hours a day.
13 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 13 o'clock.
On Friday the 13th.
Yeah. What are you going to do for Halloween, by the way?
Listen,
you're going to go trick-or-treating? I'm not going to go fly to Ohio. And especially a pillowcase that you gave me, which was about 4 times the size of a normal pillowcase, and then you had me walk down the street, someplace I've never been before, and you told me, hey, I'm not taking you back to the airport till you bring a bag full of gummy bears and M&Ms and all that stuff. That was you know what you did to me? You extorted our friendship.
I did, but somebody is better me do it than a total stranger. But I've told on this show many times over the years, my history with Halloweening. I've had bad luck every Halloween, a near disaster. Every time I went out, I've got kicked out of places and been shot at and just weird.
Well, next time you get kicked out of places, remember one thing: put your clothes on before you go.
That's the problem. I had clothes on, but they were offensive to some people.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, with a dagger.
No, well, it was funny. It was a spur of the moment.
I don't want to hear. We don't want to go into it anymore.
Yeah,
people might think you're weird.
Yeah, it was.
Well, you weren't dressed like Peter Pan.
No, I wasn't.
No, that's yeah.
No, I had clothes on. It just people didn't like some people didn't like it.
Yeah, they didn't like it. Right. I wonder why.
Yeah, it happens,
Yeah,
it wasn't my idea. I was all against
I'm
it.
surprised somebody didn't line you up against a brick wall and shoot you wearing it.
Yeah, that could be too. And then that one time I had a smoke bomb when I was young and lit a bunch of leaves on fire and throwing candy corn at people, and the guy got mad and shooting guns.
You were doing stuff like that? You're admitting it on national radio.
I was 50 years ago.
Yeah, well.
It was a different time.
Now, you know what I did in high school one time? In a portable, I threw a smoke bomb underneath the portable. And I thought it was just going to come out from the sides of the portable, but it filled the whole inside of the portable with smoke. The fire department came, the police came, and boy, did I found out what an army belt felt like.
What about
in high school?
What about Mr. Bender? You forget about that one?
Oh, I like to forget about that one, yeah.
I bet you would. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when my dad said, you know what? You got your choice. You enlist or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What can I say? Well, what are we going to be talking about tomorrow?
Oh, yes. Tomorrow we have Denise Stoner on. She's very well known in the UFO abductee field. She's written a few books on abductions. She's had kind of many abductions throughout her life. Actually, her and Kathleen Martin wrote a book together. And, of course, Kathleen, she's been on the show a few times. She is the niece of Betty and Barney Hill.
Oh, yeah. And then on Friday, who do we have?
That is Friday.
That is? Oh, that's-
I'm sorry. Tomorrow we have Dr.
Yeah,
Eric-
wait a minute. See, you're doing it to me again. You know, because I have Alzheimer's. I'm 71 years old. You're doing it to me. We're going to be talking about AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what. I love playing around with photographs and digital imaging, right? And all the software to go through and, enhance your pictures. Everything is AI now. Instead of sitting there and trying to figure it out yourself, you push the button, the computer goes through the software. It figures everything out for you. I mean, it's everywhere. Every freaking place is AI. It's getting out of control.
It's dumbing us down. Just think over 10 years how much it will dummy down the human brain.
Oh, by the way, in California, guess what? You're not going to be able to buy that battery-operated car pretty soon.
Oh.
The one that starts with a T?
Oh, really? What's going on with that?
Well, too many people have gotten killed because a self-driving car, has glitches. And some of the glitches, right, like going over railroad tracks, right? And all of a sudden, it just stops right in the middle of the railroad track, and a train comes. Or you're going through an intersection and it malfunctions, right? And it's when it malfunctions, it shuts everything off. So you stop right there on the spot.
Yeah, that's that autonomous, which is AI. So
that's why I'm saying that. Could you imagine you're going through a 4-way intersection at rush hour traffic, right? And the light's now turning from yellow to red, and the car all of a sudden malfunctions, right? And slams the brake on while you're in the middle of the intersection. And now your car is all crumpled up along with you.
Now, the question is this a deep conspiracy where this AI is kind of concluding like, hey, let's have a few accidents, get rid of some of these humans?
I don't know about that, but, again, digital money. That's now on the East Coast. That's taking place.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to cause some chaos.
I like the green stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to feel it in my pocket.
I hear you.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of going digital. What happens, seriously, if the satellites go down? Oh, then you don't even have any currency to bargain with, right?
No.
You don't have no coins, no nothing. It's all digital, and if everything goes down, how you going to get your money?
That's right.
Yeah.
That'd be a tough one.
We're not there yet.
I hope we don't get there.
But you could be like in China. You can't even walk down the street and they identify who you are. You have no privacy.
No.
You can't go around mugging purses in China anymore, JC, because they got all these cameras everywhere and they know who you are.
Big Brother is definitely watching you.
Yeah. Well, out there, how many people really think that AI is going to be a big benefit to mankind? Could you imagine, we talked about War Games, that movie War Games? Could you imagine, which they probably do have computers like that, could you imagine the computer making the decision of life and death for humanity?
Yeah, you're right. A computer has no empathy. And what happens when the day comes when the computer realizes, hey, you know what? Mankind's obsolete. Why do we need them?
Have you ever tried to get on chat for your bank or something, and you're not talking, you're sitting there, right? And you're messaging this back and forth, and then you realize you're not talking to a human. It's all AI. It's all bot. It's coming back with your answers, but they're not pertaining to what you're asking.
No, and I'll tell you something else AI is doing. You probably noticed they are creating pictures of Bigfoot that looks real. I'm telling you, some of them.
Probably. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Well, nobody on chat has said anything about my wife standing behind me. She hasn't moved in over an hour. I wonder what I have to keep the air conditioner running here all day and all night to keep her like that, by the way.
Yeah, she's pretty stiff, that's for sure.
Yeah, more ways than one, I'll tell you that.
I'll take your word for it on that one there, buddy.
Yeah. But anyway, I can't again. Next Friday, we have the host from Creatures Features.
Yes.
If you go to our website, you'll see a picture. All you have to do is click on it. It takes you to their website. You can go to YouTube and type in Creature Features and find their latest little, they have a little blurb about, their previous show. Just say that Gary and JC from Night Dreams Talk Radio sent you over, let them know. Please, yeah, do that. It's very important.
If not, Tangela will get you.
Yeah, Metatron Power and Light has a new song coming out, by the way.
Oh, what's the title of it?
I don't remember.
Oh, is that the title? Okay.
I don't know. I told you I can't remember.
Oh, I thought that was the title.
It could be, but it's supposed to be good.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, support them. Go to metatronpowerlight.com for more information.
Yep, that's the best way.
Yeah. Well, you're going to, that Mothman thing. Are you getting excited about that?
I am. I'm going to be there next Saturday. That's going to, you know what? I didn't know about the hayride to the TNT.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, you're not going to get a girl to ride with you.
No, I'm going to go there. Listen, yes, I will be there in the crowd, talking to some people, passing out some cards and, having a good time.
Yeah. Are you still going to rent that Mothman suit and walk around with one?
No, because somebody allowed to
put a chain around you in a net and take you away, right?
Yeah, big butterfly net me.
Yeah, that too. Well, again, when you check out our website, www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, another passion of mine since I was 5 years old, besides opening my mouth. Do you know my mother wanted me to be one of two things? A preacher. She thought I could make a good preacher. Praise the Lord, get down on your knees. Anyway, she wanted me to become a preacher or the president of the United States.
Oh, boy.
And I really, when she died, she whispered to me, son, you disappointed me. And I go, what? She goes, well, you never were the president of the United States and you never was a preacher.
But I will say this, you take some of the best pictures I've ever seen in my life. So I will credit you.
Well, yeah, but you have only seen 8 or 9 pictures in your whole life. Right. Isn't it true?
You are a master at photography. I will give you that one for sure.
I'm not a master. I just like taking pictures.
Well, in my opinion, you are. How about that?
Okay, well, thank you. Everybody, you can check out my crappy artwork on my website. This says Gary and Alyssa's photos. It's up there for your enjoyment.
They are pretty amazing, I got to say.
Well, they're different.
I like them. Now, if you'd have had the presence of mind not to run from that thing that chased you with that long lens up there in Canada years back, that would have been a picture.
I would have been so freaking rich.
Oh, big time.
I could have. I could have been. They could have made a movie of it.
They could have, but they found you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I could have been splattered on the trees, too.
Found footage. That would have been
they would have found footage, all right. 2 feet. That's what the type of footage they'd find.
Yeah, you'd have got footage. Big time.
No, Bigfoot don't exist. It was a figment of my imagination. And then when I came home, it was my wife's figment of the imagination about the passenger fender and part of the door being caved in from the figment of my imagination of the creature that was a figment of my imagination that threw the big rock or whatever it was against the car. It was just all a dream. It was never real.
Yeah, and I could just picture trying to convince an insurance company of that whole scenario.
Hey, Progressive, yes. What? Oh, the accident? Oh, no, it was not an accident. I was up in the Canadian Rockies, and we went down this fire road as far as it would go because it was getting overgrown. So we found a place and we parked, and then we walked tiptoeing through the tulips all the way down to where the internment camp was, right? No, yeah. No, ma'am. We weren't smoking anything. Well, that's not true. I was smoking a cigar because I like cigars, and my wife wasn't around, so I probably was smoking a cigar. And we got there, and there was a part of a building or shed or whatever it was collapsed. Everything else was gone except some mining equipment because it was built next to a hill or part of a mountain, which was a mine in it. And running between that and where the internment camp was a creek, like a small river. And on the other side of it, my friend says, look at that bear. It wasn't a bear.
Mm-mm.
No, it was a figment of my imagination. It was a big hairy thing, like my Aunt Bertha at the nudist camp used to blow the saxophones.
Yeah.
That's because that's the only thing she could blow. She was so homely. Anyway, and then it decided to chase after us. Heck, I didn't need depends.
No.
But it was all a figment of my imagination. I never saw a Bigfoot in my life. I never was scared. I was just skipping through the tulips, it was me. And I got back to the car and got in the car, and somehow, all the weirdness happened. But it was all a figment of my imagination. It wasn't real.
Sure. Well, it was real to somebody that.
Well, it was certainly real to the doctor. It was with me.
Yeah.
But to me, it was a figment of my imagination. That's why I didn't say anything for 20 some years. It was embarrassing. I didn't want people to think I was crazy. Hold on for a minute. Wait. Another rat is coming out of my shirt pocket. Damn it. Anyway, but I didn't want people to think I was crazy.
Well, there's that whole thing there where if you don't talk, people can only assume, Gary, but when you open your mouth, you eliminate all doubts.
Let me write that down. Oh, I don't have my color grand set here in front of me. But, do these things exist? I don't know. I could have maybe got high off the fresh air up in the Canadian Rockies. I don't know.
Well, it was strong enough to throw a rock to put a dent
or a big tree thing. I don't know what hit the car, but I tell you what, how do you explain that to your wife? Her new Cavalier, you drive it home, and the only mileage it had on it maybe was 300-400 miles before she loaned it to me to go on this trip. And then you come back and you go, oh, hey, by the way, how did it go? Well, honey, you won't believe this. But,
you're not going to believe this.
But, I was tiptoeing through the tulips about 2 miles, and we run across this old Japanese internment camp. And on the other side of the camp, there was a creek. But Linda, we saw a Bigfoot, but actually it was a figment of my imagination, so it never happened. So if it never happened, Linda, don't worry. Just take the car to the car wash. There's no dent in it at all. No. It's just a figment of my imagination.
Yeah, it was an avalanche that it came. It bounced off the road and.
Well, whatever. So that's why Mothman. I don't know if I buy Mothman, but I certainly know there's some people out there in the woods that are hairy.
Boy, that is true.
Of course, I know some people in the city are hairy too.
No, well, the urban ones.
They smell just as bad as the Bigfoot.
Yeah, and listen, Mothman has been seen in cities like Chicago.
Yeah, and around Lake Michigan.
Yeah, that was the ones that
Eugene, Oregon, and in Texas,
upper state New York.
Yeah, and how about these creatures in Nevada that gargoyles or whatever they are? Have been seen by hikers up there off the cliffs. Flying off the cliffs. Can you imagine?
Pterodactyls and all kind of flying creatures going on. Thunderbirds. There's all kind of.
That's my favorite show. You know that.
I knew it was probably your band too.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Tomorrow we're going to be talking artificial intelligence. Again, How many of you out there are worried about it? I am getting worried that we really don't have any decisions. Have you ever called up anybody? I had to call up my credit union today, and I was asked about 30 questions, all related by voice. No pushing buttons. It would ask the questions you answered. Hey, what is it again? Well, I want to talk to somebody about my account. What about your account? I mean, can you imagine and then you don't know if you're actually talking to a representative or you're talking to the computer anymore.
That's right. Listen, they're going to be taking jobs and they're going to be making decisions, important ones.
Oh, did you read the article in the newspaper yesterday? It was CNN and a couple other ones that there was this company that has robots working with humans in the warehouse doing the same thing.
I did. As a matter of fact, I believe when I talked to our guest for tomorrow, I think he's going to touch on some of that.
That's bad too, because that's going to cause loss of jobs.
Oh yeah, and then there's the long-term effect of dumbing down the human brain because it's a muscle. We're not using it. This AI is doing everything for us.
Well, honestly, again, this is true. I pulled up to Dairy Queen a few days ago, and they had a problem with their computer, and it came to like $18 and some odd cents. And the young lady who was helping me couldn't make change from a $20 bill. She had to go get her manager. And even the manager was having a hard time figuring out the change from $18.81 or whatever it was from a $20 bill, how much I should get back.
Yeah.
And they gave me money. And, oh, wait a minute, I gave you $1 too much. They couldn't even make change. That's how bad people's brains are getting without computers, without, AI. We're getting lazy. We don't have to think things anymore.
I know it's gotten so bad around here that, God forbid, if the internet goes out or there's no electricity, the stores shut down. They will not sit there like they did even just 15 years ago and mathematically figure things out in their brain. They just shut it down. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's our future. Well, to tomorrow, when we're talking about artificial intelligence, everybody have a good one. JC and me and my wife in the background want to say good evening, and everybody have a great evening. Take care.